Salam alaikum, dear students. Today we are reviewing the EOT released by the MOE in 2025. The lesson we are focusing on this video is lesson 1, integumentary system. This is for biology 10 general. Question 1 is from the integumentary system, is from page number 135, figure 1 in your textbook. Describe the basic structure and organs of the integumentary system. So here you can see the picture of the integumentary system. You know that the integumentary system include the covering of the body, that is skin, nail and the hair. Here we have three major layers of the integumentary system. The first layer of the skin is the epidermis. The second layer is the dermis and the third layer is the subcutaneous layer. You can see on the integumentary system, the top layer is very thin. It is about 10 to 30 cells thick. It's like a thick sheet of paper. And you can see that on top of the integumentary system, you have a protein called as keratin that is making your skin waterproof, and you have pigments called as melanin that is protecting you from the UV rays and also giving the dark appearance to the skin. And you can see here the hair follicles and the hair coming out, and you can see the sweat gland that is producing sweat, and as part of or nearby the hair follicles you can see the sebaceous gland, right? Sebaceous gland that is producing the oil. If you have oily skin, if you go in the sun, you can see oil on the skin. So that is because of the sebaceous gland. And the last that is subcutaneous tissue is mainly made up of fat tissue. And here in the dermis you can see all the arteries, veins and all, and also the nerves that helps you to sense the outer environment. Question number 2 is from page number 137. Explain the main function of the integumentary system. So can you survive without your skin? You cannot, right? You need the skin on top of your body, otherwise you will have infections and you cannot control the temperature inside the body. Your skin is doing the homeostasis for you, that is controlling the temperature. So when you say about the homeostasis, the first function is the temperature regulation, right? When you feel cold, you will shiver because of your muscles, right? And that provides you some kind of heat. And also you'll have goosebumps in your skin. This is also because of the muscles on the body, right? And here the cat, it has fur, and the air spaces between the fur, right? The fur is standing because of the muscles, and the air space inside the fur keeps it warm, and it is because of the muscles, right? Muscles. Okay. And when you are feeling hot, you will start sweating, right? You have water and salt coming out of your sweat glands. That will cool your body because it is mainly water, right? So that will cool your body when you are in a hot weather. And you know that your melanin, right? Melanin is protecting you against the UV rays, right? If your skin is exposed to UV rays for a long time, you will get cancer, skin cancer. It is also called as the melanoma. And you know that your body is also producing vitamin D, right? Vitamin D, which is essential for your bone formation, right? So the skin also is helping in the bone formation by making vitamin D. And your skin is protecting your body from the attack of pathogens like a virus or bacteria and virus. Salam alaikum, dear students. This video will have questions from lesson 2, that is skeletal system, which is part of the EOT revision biology 10 general 2025. My name is Sujit and I am from Delma School. Question number 3 is from page number 140, figure 6. Describe the basic structure and organs of the skeletal system. So here this will give you 4 marks if you study all the parts of the skeletal system. It is very easy to study. When you study from your book, you can keep your body as your guide. So when you see each part, you touch your body and remember this and repeat it again and again so that you will not forget during the exam. An adult human skeleton will have about 206 bones. The structure of the skeletal system is supporting our body. Without our skeleton, you cannot walk or you cannot do anything. You cannot even move your finger without your skeleton inside. So your skeletal system is mainly divided into two, that is the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. It is very easy to identify the axial skeleton. Axial skeleton, if you draw a line like this, right, you will get the axial skeleton. So what are the parts of the axial skeleton? Axial skeleton has the skull, and the facial bones are associated bones. There is a bone called mandible and maxilla, and these are protecting your brain. And you have a tie like a bone, sternum, right? It is called as the sternum, and from the sternum you can see that ribs are attached, and this is also part of the axial skeleton. And you can see in the back, right, the spinal cord is inside the vertebral column. So vertebral column is protecting the spinal cord and your skull is protecting your brain. And as part of the appendicular skeleton, you have the clavicle here, right? This is the clavicle bone, that is the shoulder bone, and backside you can see a flat bone. It is called as the scapula, right? There is a scapula, you can see here in the picture. This is the scapula. Backside, as it's a flat bone. And on the hand, you can see this one is the humerus, right? This bone is called as the humerus, and humerus is connected to the radius and ulna, right? This is the radius and this is ulna, radius and ulna. And you can see that there are carpals on your wrist, and carpals, after that you can see metacarpals, right? Carpals and metacarpals, and the finger bones are called as the phalanges. And you have the pelvis bone here, right? This is the pelvic bone, and the biggest bone in your body is the femur, right? This is the femur. This is called as the femur. And you have the knee bone, it is called as the patella, right? Pattella, patella. And you have this bone is called as tibia, and backside you have fibula. So this is tibia and fibula, and on hand we have seen that is radius and ulna, right? Don't confuse between radius ulna and fibula tibia. So radius ulna is on hand and tibia and fibula are on the leg. And you have the tarsals, right? Tarsals. Instead of carpals, you have tarsals, and after that you have metatarsals. And the finger bones here, again it is called as the phalanges. So we have learned that the axial skeleton is the middle, right? The middle part of the skeleton, and the appendicular skeleton is the hands or legs mainly, and also the shoulder bones. Question number 15 is from page number 141, figure 7. This is the figure 7, right? Figure 7 is talking about the compact bone and the spongy bone. So If you read the paragraph, you know that there are four types of bond. First one is the long bond. You can see in the hand, right? It is long bond. The short bonds on the wrist and the flat bonds on the skull, right? You have the suture here and the flat bonds on the skull, and also the sternum is actually flat, and you have the irregular bonds of the ribs, right? And the facial bonds, the bonds of the face are irregular. And the bond is actually mainly two bonds, that is compact bond and the spongy bond. The outside part of the bond is actually the compact bond, which is dense and rigid. It is strong part of the bond. And you have the osteon system or Haversian system on the compact bond, which is not seen in the spongy bond, right? So osteons or Haversian system will have the blood vessels and nerves, and the spongy bond has cavities, and inside the cavities you have bone marrow. So there are two types of bone marrow, that is yellow bone marrow and red bone marrow, right? Red bone marrow is making your blood cells, and the yellow bone marrow is storing fat. So in infants, right, or in babies, they will have more red bone marrow because they require more blood. And when you get some injuries or when you have anemia, some of your yellow bone marrow will be converted to red bone marrow because you need more blood during that time. And the living bone cells are called as the osteocytes. Osteocytes. And formation of bone from osteoblast is called as the ossification, right? Ossification. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. My name is Sujit and I am from Delma School. This video we are going to revise lesson 3 questions from EOT 2025, 10 general biology. Question number 4 will be from page number 146, figure number 10. And figure number 10 is showing 3 different types of muscles. You know that muscles are used for the movement. There are 2 types of muscles based on the movement. One is the voluntary muscle and the other one is the involuntary muscles. So here you can see 3 different types of muscles. Smooth muscle and cardiac muscles are the involuntary muscles that we cannot move according to our wish, right? The smooth muscles are part of the organ system. You can have the smooth muscles on your esophagus, on your stomach, your intestine, and many internal organs. And you can see that the smooth muscle have one nucleus and it is not striated, right? It does not have the striations or stripes like the cardiac or skeletal muscle. So smooth muscle is involuntary. And also the cardiac muscle. The word cardiac means heart. Heart, right? Heart. The muscles of the heart are called as the cardiac muscles. And these 2 muscles are involuntary. Involuntary means you cannot move according to your wish. Can you stop your heart or can you control your heartbeat? If you wish, you cannot, because it is involuntary muscle, right? These muscles are involuntary, that means you cannot move the muscle according to your wish. And the last one is the skeletal muscle, right? The skeletal muscle is part of your skeleton system, right? You learned about the skeleton system in lesson 2. So the skeletal muscles are helping you to move your body, right? So skeletal muscles are striated and it is voluntary, right? Voluntary, that means you can move the muscles according to your wish. Question number 5 will be from page number 148, figure 12. Explain the main function of the muscular system. So here you have the picture, that is figure 12. You have the picture of the sarcomere. Your muscles are made up of muscle fibers or myofibrils, and these myofibrils has actin and myosin fibers. Your muscles are connected in unit. One of these unit is called as the sarcomere, and we are going to see how the sarcomere functions, right? The muscle contraction, or when you use your muscles, your sarcomere is undergoing changes, and this change is called as the sliding filament, or this, there is a theory called as the sliding filament theory, right? Sliding filament theory. And this theory shows how the muscles are moving, and this muscle movement require energy in the form of ATP, right? Adenosine triphosphate. You have certain thin and thick filaments in your sarcomere. The thin filament is called as the actin filaments, and the thick filament are called as the myosin filaments. So there are two muscle fibers, that is actin, which is thin, and myosin, right? Myosin, which is the thick filament. End of the sarcomere, right? Both end of the sarcomere where the actin filament is attached is called as the Z line, right? This is the Z line, right? And it is easy to remember the M line because it is exactly in the center, right? This is called as the M line, right? Middle, or M line. Okay, and the area where you can see both the actin and myosin filament is called as the A band, right? This is the A band, right? Where you can see both actin and myosin, it is called as the A band. And the area where the myosin filament can see is called as the H zone, right? This is H zone. And let's see how the muscle is moving, right? So these actin filaments slide past on top of the myosin filament, and this sarcomere becomes short, right? You know, this is long and this is short, right? The muscle is contracting by sliding past on top of the other filament. So actin is sliding, the myosin is just standing there, and the actin is sliding past. How it is sliding past? The myosin is pulling these actin filaments towards inside. So this will contract the muscle, right, by using the ATP. And this is how the muscle is functioning, and this muscle movement is called as the sliding filament motion. Salam alaikum, dear students. This is Sujit Bhaskaran from Delma School. In this video, we are going to focus on lesson 4, structure of the nervous system. This is part of the 10 General Biology EOT revision 2025. Lesson 4, structure of the nervous system. Question number 6 and 21 is from page number 156, and questions will be from figure 1. Describe the basic structure and function of the cells and main organs of the nervous system. Here you will get 2 questions from this portion. You know that neurons are the functional unit of the nerves. Neuron is a cell that is the functional unit of the nervous system. So what is nervous system does? Nervous system is helping you to communicate the information, right, to the brain or to the spinal cord and back to your neurons, so that you can take an action. So neurons are specialized cells that is helping you to gather the information. These are like the wires of the electric panel. When you put on the switch, you will get the light or fan or AC in your home because of the wires are connected between the switch and the machine. So these neurons are like the wires. Millions of these tiny wires are connected from our skin and other parts of our body to the brain and spinal cord and back to our skin. And the structural or and functional unit of the nervous system, that is the neurons, has several parts in the cell. When I'm writing, right, so you pause this video for some time and think about these structures, and as I'm writing, just guess the structures, right, before I'm writing. So this one here are the dendrites, right? Dendrite, right? The dendrite, and this one is the cell body, right? Cell body. And what is this one? This is the nucleus, right? Nucleus. And this one is the axon, right? This is axon. And this is called as the myelin sheath, right? Myelin sheath. And this one is Schwann cells, but you don't worry, you don't have this in the textbook. And this one is the axon terminals, right? Axon ending or axon terminal, right? And always the nerve impulse or the information go in one direction only through the nerves, right? That is from the dendrite to the axon and to the axon ending, right? Never the information will backflow. So always the information pass through same direction, right? From the dendrite through the cell body to the axons and to the axon terminal. And the space between, right, as there is a small space between two adjacent neurons, this is called as the synapse, right? Synapse. These neurons will not be touching each other. There will be always a space between the neurons. It is called as synapse. And the myelin sheath, right? The function of myelin sheath is to increase the speed of the nerve impulse, right? There are two types of neurons. One is non-myelinated, right? Non-myelinated. And in non-myelinated, the speed of the neuron will be like 10 meter per second only. But in myelinated, like this one, right, with myelin sheath, right, myelinated neuron, the speed of the nerve impulse will be like 150 meter per second. It will be very fast through the neuron. Question number 12 is going to be from page number 157 and figure 2. Figure 2 shows the reflex action, right? When you touch something hot, right, you're touching something hot, and you take your finger or your hand suddenly because it is a reflex action, right? And the nerves that are connected in reflex action are called as the reflex arc. You know that there are three types of nerves. One is the sensory neuron, right? There are three types of neuron. Sensory neuron. And the second one is the interneuron, right? Interneuron. And the third one is the motor neuron, right? So 1, 2, 3. There are three types of neurons. So this one in the picture is called as a reflex arc. So you are getting the information from the outside world through your skin or the nerve endings on your skin, and these informations are passed to the interneuron, right, either in brain or in the spinal cord. In case of reflex action, most of these signals are going through the spinal cord because there is no time to reach the brain, right? So if you lose time to reach the brain and analyze your skin, right, your skin will be more burnt. So what happens is these signals are only reaching the spinal cord, and the spinal cord is taking the sudden action through the motor neurons, right? The commands will be going to the motor neuron to take the hand, right? So sudden action is required for the reflex actions. Otherwise, you will be hurt. And what is a nerve impulse? The information passing through the nerve is called as the nerve impulse, right? And this is happening because of the sodium potassium channels inside your nerve or neuron. Question number 23 will be from page number 158. Explain how the nerve impulse is similar to an electric signal and how it moves along a neuron. As I have told that the information through the neuron is unidirectional. It moves only through one direction. And you can see that when the neuron is at rest, there will be positive charge outside and negative charge inside. And the nerve impulse, right? The nerve impulse is called as an action potential, right? If somebody touch you, it creates an action potential, right? This is the action potential. Another name for nerve impulse is the action potential. There is a minimum amount of stimulus that is required to activate your action potential, and this is called as the threshold, right? Threshold. So only if the stimulus is more than the threshold, you will feel it. Otherwise, you will not feel it, right? Most of the time, right, wind is touching your skin. You will not know these things because this is below the threshold. And if it is above the threshold, you will know about the action potential. And this action potential is moving by the movement of sodium and potassium through the channels. The sodium goes inside and it creates a positive, right, charge inside the cell, and potassium goes outside and it creates a negative charge outside the cell. And after that, this sodium, this passes to the next segment of the neuron, and this will create the positive charge inside the next segment of the neuron, and so on it is carrying forward. So the movement of the action potential through the neuron is unidirectional. So here you can say that this is the first image, right? The nerve impulse is here, and the second image, the nerve impulse has traveled a little bit, and the third one is the nerve impulse is passing, and there is the neuron is at rest. That is the fourth stage. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Sujit Bhaskaran from Dalma School. Today we are going to revise or review the EOT questions from lesson 5, organization of the nervous system, from 10 general biology. Question number 7 and 19 are from page number 164. Page number 164 has figure 10, which is the picture of the human brain. In the skeletal system chapter, we have learned that the skull is protecting our brain. The brain is the control center of our body. So brain has the bigger part, it is called as the cerebrum, and behind or beneath that you can see the cerebellum, and you can see a small portion, this is called as the hypothalamus, and the brainstem is divided into two, that is the pons and the medulla oblongata, right? There are two parts in the brainstem, pons and medulla oblongata, and the brainstem connects to the spinal cord, which is going through or inside the vertebral column, and these two are the brain and spinal cord are part of the central nervous system, or CNS, right? Central nervous system. The functions of cerebrum, right, the larger part, include the thought processes like cognitive processes of learning, memory, language, speech, and it is controlling the voluntary body movements. And the function of cerebellum is to control balance, posture, and coordination, right? This is the cerebellum, and it is controlling the balance, posture, and coordination. And you know that the brainstem is divided into two. Brainstem, it is connecting the brain to the spinal cord, and the function of medulla oblongata is to control breathing rate, heart rate, and blood pressure, whereas the pons relaying the information between the cerebellum and cerebrum, right? And it also controls the breathing rates. That is the pons. And finally, you have the hypothalamus. We have learned about the homeostasis, right? Homeostasis. The homeostasis is a term that you will hear almost every biology classes, because homeostasis has such an importance in the human body that it is controlling most of the things like our sugar levels, our temperature level, water level in the body. Almost everything is controlling by the homeostasis. So the hypothalamus is the control center for the homeostasis. It is coordinating all the homeostasis functions in our body. Question number 20 will be from page number 165. The figure 11 shows that the peripheral nervous system, we learned about the central nervous system, right? A CNS has brain and a spinal cord. But all the other nerves that is arising from the brain and spinal cord are called as the peripheral nervous system, right? Or PNS. And we have about 12 cranial nerves and 31 spinal nerves, right? The cranial means the brain, right? So there are 12 cranial or brain nerves, right? That is arising from the brain. And there are 31 spinal nerves, right? Spinal nerves. So in this lesson you will get a question, or question number 20 will be about the peripheral nervous system. So maybe the question will be the part of the peripheral nervous system. Maybe you will have options: brain, spinal cord, and the other nerves. So all the other nerves except for the brain and spinal cord are part of the PNS, right? PNS. And the brain and spinal cord is part of the central nervous system, or CNS. Question number 18 will be from page number 166. Page number 166 is mainly telling about the functions of peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is divided into two, that is the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system has mostly the voluntary skeletal muscles, like the voluntary actions, right, that we do with our wish, right? If you want to take a pen from the floor, you can take with your hand because your voluntary muscles are in action. And remember that all these actions happening in the skeletal muscle or in the central nervous system are voluntary. There are reflex action. We learned about the reflex arc. The reflex actions are the actions that happens without the involvement of brain, right? Brain is not involved. It is no brainer. The reflex action goes through the spinal cord, right? Spinal cord, to save time and save your body, because you don't have time to think about whether you have to take your hand off a hot pan or you have to keep it there. So the spinal cord is the decision maker in the reflex actions. Autonomic nervous system is divided into two, that is parasympathetic and sympathetic, right? So you have two reactions. One reaction is when your fight or flight responses are part of the sympathetic nervous system, right? During the active time, and also when you are alert. Generally, the sympathetic nervous system is controlling the actions, that is a flight or fight response. If you see a snake, right, you suddenly have to run away, or you have to take a decision whether you have to fight back. So these decisions are taken by the sympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is mostly rest and digest, right? The parasympathetic nervous system are controlling the actions when you are at rest, or even when your digestion is happening, like it is when you are at rest. When you are at stressed stage, your digestion will be slow. So we will revise again. So the nervous system is divided into two, that is central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is brain and spinal cord, And peripheral nervous system, all the other nerves, like there are 12 cranial nerves and there are 31 spinal nerves. And the peripheral nervous system is divided into somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. And somatic nervous system are mostly the voluntary functions, and the autonomic nervous system is mostly the involuntary actions like heart actions and breathing. And again, the autonomic nervous system is divided into two, that is sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. And here the sympathetic nervous system are fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. Question number 16, as we discussed, it is about the autonomic nervous system, right? It is from page number 167. The autonomic nervous system is divided into two, that is the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is, as we discussed, it is the fight or flight response, right? Fight or flight, right? Whether you have to decide whether you are going to fight back or run away, right? When you see a tiger coming to attack you, if you're deciding to fight, you are a fool, right? So you have to run, that is flight, right? So when you see a tiger coming to attack, you have to run away, you have to escape. So these actions are controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic nervous system, your iris, right? Your eye muscle, right? You will learn about the iris in the next lesson, that is senses. The pupil, right? Pupil is the opening of the eye that allow the light. So when your sympathetic nervous system is active, your pupil will be dilated or it will become big, right? To allow more light, right? Because you need quick actions and you have to see everything around you. So your pupil will be dilated. And during the parasympathetic simulation, like when you are at rest, your pupil will be constricted, right? It will be small because you are at rest and you need only few amount of light to pass through the pupil. And what about the heart rate? So when you are at fight or flight response, your heart is going to beat faster, right? So the increased force of heartbeat you can see in the sympathetic nervous system, and parasympathetic nervous system will be decreased, right? The heart rate will be decreased. And then what happens at your lungs, right? Your bronchial muscles will be relaxed, you need more air, and your bronchial muscle will be contracted when it is at rest or parasympathetic stimulation is active. And during the sympathetic nervous system, your muscle contractions of your digestive system or the small intestine will be reduced. So your digestion will be slow, right? You will have less digestion. But when you are at rest, right, when you eat and take rest, your digestion will be increased, right? That means your parasympathetic nervous system is active. So revising, the sympathetic nervous system increases the speed of your actions, like your heartbeat, your breathing rate, all this will be increased because you are in fight or flight response. And in the parasympathetic nervous system, your body is at rest and your pupil will be constricted, and heart rate will be decreased, and you'll have proper digestion of food. Welcome, dear students. This is Sujit Bhaskaran from Delma School. In this video, we are going to revise 10 General Biology EOT questions from Lesson 6, Senses. Question number 8 is from page number 168. Explain that each type of sense receptor responds to different types of stimuli and transmits them as signals along nerve cells to the brain. Here in this page, it is discussing about the taste and smell, right? You know that the taste is connected to your tongue. You have the taste buds on the tongue, right? So these are the chemical receptors that detect the taste of sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. And you have the specialized receptors on the nose. These are called as the olfactory nerve receptors, and these are responsible for the smell by detecting the particles, right, chemicals in the air. Question number 10, 22, 25 are from page number 169. Your two questions will be from figure 14. Here figure 14 is the structure of the eye, right? Internal structure of eye. So if you see that, you can see that the eye is like a ball, right? It has optical nerve that is connected backside, right? Colored part of the eye is called as the iris, right? This one is the iris. And there is a small opening, you can see, where the light enters, is called as the pupil. And there is a colorless part in front of, there is a covering. If you see this picture, you can see clearly there is a colorless part, like glass like part, covering the front part of the eye. It is called as the cornea, and the light enters through the eyes and it reaches the lens, and this is the lens is connected by ciliary muscles, and this light falls, right, and creates an inverted image on the retina, right? The backside part inside the eye is called as the retina, right? And this white part you are seeing is sclera, right? Sclera. And behind the lens, right, inside the retina, you can see the colorless liquid. It is called as the vitreous humor. And these informations, right, the images falling on the retina is collected by the optic nerve, right? You have the optic nerve here. If you see here, you can see that the optic nerve is collecting the information from the eyes and it is taking to the brain. Okay, and you have specialized sensory receptors called as rods and cones. So rods are for seeing, the images in dim light, right? Dim light. So when there is less light, your rod cells will be more active. And the cones, right? Cones are the cells that or the sensory receptors that help you to see colors, right? Colors. And also it works in the bright light, right? Bright light. The colored part of the eye is called as the iris, and the colorless part, that is covering of the eye, right, the front covering of the eye, is called as the cornea, right? Cornea. And the light passes through a small opening in the iris. It is called as the pupil, right? This opening is called as the pupil, right? Pupil. And the lens, you can see the lens behind, which adjusts the images, right? When you are seeing some image here or here, your lens is adjusted to have it in focus, right? It is autofocus. And the images falls on the retina, right? The backside part of the eye is called as the retina, and the images are going to the brain through the optic nerve. Question number 9, 14 and 17 are from page number 170. Page number 170 has the structure of the ear, right? You have three parts of the ear: the outer ear, middle ear and the inner ear, right? If you see the structure of the ear, you can see that the outer ear has a pinna, right? This is called as the pinna. And if you see, there is a hollow part. It is called as the ear canal, right? Ear canal, you can see here, it is ear canal. And ear canal ends in the eardrum, right? This is the eardrum or tympanum, right? Here in your textbook it is written as tympanum. And the tympanum is connected to three small bones, right? Three small bones. These are malleus, incus and stapes, right? If you see, there are three bonds that is connected to the eardrum, and this is connecting to the oval window, right? Here you have the oval window, and from oval window the information is going to the cochlea, right? In cochlea you have the small hair cells right? And the fluid inside that will create electrical impulses that will pass through the auditory nerve, right? Auditory nerve to the brain. And the you can see these three semicircular canals, right? This is a right angle to each other, right? It is placed in 90 degrees to each other, and these are called as the semicircular canals, right? Semicircular canals. This is cochlea. The snail shaped this structure is cochlea, and this is called as the semicircular canals. Semicircular canals are helping you to balance. The vibrations from outside is collected by the pinna, right? And it passes through the the ear canal, and it vibrates the eardrum or tympanum. And there are three bonds associated with the tympanum, and these vibrates and these vibrations are traveling up to the oval window, and it travels to the cochlea, right? Inside the cochlea you have the small hair cells. This cochlea is fluid filled. According to the sound coming from outside, these hair cells vibrates. That creates nerve impulses, right? Nerve impulses. And these impulses travel through the auditory nerve, right? Auditory nerve, and it reaches the brain, and brain get the perception of hearing, or brain process the information, and you hear the voices. And these three canals, right, the semicircular canals, are helping you to stand straight or keep balance. And question number 11 is from page number 171. In this question we can see that the layers of the skin has many different types of receptors that is found in three layers, right? The three layers of the skin are epidermis, dermis, and the subcutaneous layer, right? We have learned in the last term. And many types of the receptors are found in the skin, and you can see that the receptor for the light touch are just beneath the epidermis, right? It is just under the covering of the skin, and you can see that this is for the light touch. And in the dermis you can see that it is for the heavy pressure, right? When the heavy pressure applied, only the nerve impulse will be created here. And you have two receptors, that is, one is for the cold and the other one is for the heat, right? So the heat receptors you can easily identify by this shape, right? You have the shape of this one. You can see the nerve endings everywhere of your body except for the brain, right? In brain you don't have the pain sensors, and your tip of the fingers has more light touch receptors, and your sole of your feet has more heavy pressure receptors. And your brain is constantly receiving the inputs or the signals from all these receptors and processing the informations, and it is acting accordingly. This is the last part of the revision, and good luck all of you for the exams.